Hello there. So this is going to be a little bit wobbly because I don't have my stand with me. But I wanted to get this video out of the way because I've been meaning to do it and I just haven't. Yeah, this camera doesn't see this color properly. Anyway, it's more of a royal blue than this kind of, it sort of looks midnight blue, doesn't it? Anyway, irrelevant. So I'm going to show you some shells. I am not a marine biologist. I am not a shell expert. I do not know all the names of these shells. I just get them. And in fact, I went, was it last week? About last week. Yeah, I went and got these for you guys. I tried to grab things I thought might be kind of interesting. But where should I start first? See, I've got more East Coast than West Coast, but I do have some West Coast shells. And so let's pour these remains of these animals out. Anyway, yeah, so this is abalone. And there's usually a thick patty in here. Well, there used to be. I actually ate the animal that you had the shell. But don't get mad at me, I was young. And so what they do is they adhere to the sides of cliffs, you know. So you got to take a dive knife a lot of times to pop them because they latch on to the rock so hard. It's just crazy. And then they got these little tentacles that come out of these holes, these feeders. But they're otherwise sucked, you know. And anyway, but they're very, very pretty shell. Sometimes water will actually make this kind of appearance even more, will pop even more. I'm not sure if they allow people to just keep taking these now or not. But anyway, this is a shark's eye. And if you draw, it helps to bring things home, you know. It can. So you've got something. And I forget what these are called. I can't remember. Anyway. But these are all Pacific Ocean shells. That's a little bit of old coral. That's not a lion's paw, but there is a type of shell that we call a lion's paw. I just forget this. So I don't know if this is some sort of clam, you know. But they're neat. Isn't nature cool? Look at that. The engineering, just from different forces and stuff like that. It's just amazing to me. This is actually a rock. But it looks like a bird's egg or something, doesn't it? But it's a rock. And I found it, and it was just like so Earth-like. It was like kind of ovalish. And here's another one of these. These kind of remind me of castles a little bit. You know, the way they spiral to the top. And it even had other little life forms living on it before they passed away. Here's a baby abalone. I would have never popped a living one, so that had to have been, I must have found it dead. Just empty, whatever. And this is some type of small conch, I guess. I don't really know what, but I like the spikes on it. Look at that. Isn't that wild? It's like, what? Look at that. I mean, that's like, it's just such, the engineering is just like, wow. I mean, some of these little horns broke off, obviously, over time. And usually the shells that you get, you know, by the time they're up at the shoreline, the beach, they've been around for quite some time. It's got this kind of like pearly, So there you go. And now you know. Shark's tooth. I don't remember what that shark was. So this is, now we're going to go. This is not a shell. This is actually what we're doing. This is from, it's one of those deer droppings, you know, you find out in the woods when their horns are starting to come off their heads and shit. Okay, so this is the East Coast. Well, I'll show you guys the new shells first. How's that? It's easier for you. Get that out of the way so you can get out of this video if you want to. This is content and it counts. Anyway, so this is some type of clam. I'm not sure what it's called. But one reason that I like these is because it kind of reminds me of like a sun rays coming up from the horizon, you know? These different patterns, these beams. And this is not abalone, but the shell is very similar in that, obviously much darker. It's a little bit more like, kind of like black opal, if you've ever seen a black opal. And when these are wet, they're really, really quite brilliant too. And I'm going to be using this for a new project, this material actually. Here's another piece. Yeah, this camera, sadly the camera's not doing it justice, it winds up, but oh well. These are called jingles. I think what jingles are just, they're layers. They're like the layers from different shells, just sort of chipping off. But I don't know that for sure. But anyway, some people will put a small hole through them with a straight needle and then run fishing line through these, and they'll get a whole bunch of these jingles. Here's another one. It's black, a little bit bigger. And they'll just string them together on a fishing line and then hang them from walls and stuff like that. And this is a rock I found when I was out swimming, and I grabbed it because this little shell was stuck to it. I thought that was kind of wild. Probably tar, you know, that came off of some commercial construction site or something. I found this one, this little one. I thought, oh, they'll like that. This, I've not seen one this small or this color before. It's really quite tiny. It'd be kind of cute on a bracelet, don't you think? It's small enough. I've been out working, so my fingernails are messed up and nasty. But the video is not about my fingernails, so that's good. As a professional. Yeah, and so this is just, but they're all, each one of them is different. They're each unique. I never find two shells that are identical. And again, you know, the kind of the engineering, this is sort of like that half shell painting. Anyway. I don't know what's stuffed in there. I just left it. I think I got another one that is very similar to this. Here, I think it's right here. These two are pretty dang similar. But even they are different. But just, I mean, like, that's just all forces in nature making these lines and everything. Okay, so that's the new shell pile. Now we'll do the old shell pile. Well, look what we got here. Is that a turtle shell? Gosh, I think that's a turtle shell. What do you think? You think that's a turtle shell? Okay, speaking of shells, this is a rock I found. Never mind. That's a shell. Very rough. It's been beat up. Quite beat up. It's an old shell. Very interesting old shell. You see, age, things with age have value too. Isn't that pretty? It's crazy, man. Crazy. What's another one of these bad boys? It's some real white. I think that's why I grabbed this one. It's so white when they're that bleached. Some lady that was down from New Hampshire was swimming around out there, and she saw me shelling because I had my mask and everything out there, and I had some shells in my pockets. She's like, "Are there any shells out there?" Yeah. And she's like, and I had found this really great shell. It was kind of like this, but it was an East Coast type, right? I'd found a really, really bigger than this even. It's really cool, and it was empty. She's like, well, I didn't bring my mask, but so I'm like, here, you can have it. And she took it. So unfortunately, you guys don't get to see it. This is just a walnut I found in the woods. This is not a lion's paw, but it's awfully close to what we used to call them. You can see this kind of has a toe-like appearance, but I don't fuck around, man. I go get shells. This one hosted lots of other life. Badass. Just so badass. I think I broke this one. Yeah, clearly. I call these rainbow barnacles. That's not what they are, but that's what I call them because look at that color, man. These greens and purples pop off of this, and I'm so going to use it. Oh my God. I can't wait. I'm making a miniature painting for somebody, and I might go 3D with it. So anyway, yeah, so isn't that cute? It's like a little, it's like a little shell. The shell acted like a little nursery for these animals. This is the smaller. This one looks like a foot to me a little bit. Where did the big boy go? There it is. There's that one. And then here's the smaller version. Doesn't it look like a foot, kind of? Anyhow, these are rocks I found at the bottom of the ocean. What was a whole 10 feet down, maybe. Yeah, I'm afraid I can get kind of lost in stuff like it seems it's probably the tism. That's another jingle. It's just a thicker one. Yeah, I just think that there's another one of these. There's another rock. Little teeny black one. Put you over here. And there's that one. Okay, now I'm starting to get lost here. What's this one was? I forget what that is. Oh, this shell is pretty cool too. Look at this. A shell of shells. Look at, I mean, they took over. They took over. Each one of these is like a little sea creature since past. What's a jingle? And that's a shell of, that's a shell. Here's another big jingle. This one had an interesting interior, I thought. And this one's wet. It looks looks real black. Some coral. A quite worn old white shell. Bleached out. A lot of the details are smoothed out. Very smooth. This one had others embedded as well. So there you go. This is the this has been the shell portion of the channel, and with the turtle shell as well. I used to have I used to have some dolphin vertebrae, and I had a raccoon skull and some bones I had, and I wound up giving them to a teacher who was teaching all these little kids. I said, well, you can take that to them and do show and tell. They loved it. I was surprised. I was like, I don't know why kids would want a bunch of bones, and but you never can tell what people will like. So that is that. We've got the East Coast. Oops, almost got them screwed up, mixed up here. And I've got to work on my West Coast collection, clearly, because it's looking pretty pathetic compared to this East Coast trail of stuff I'm collecting here. Yeah. But I recommend, if you like to draw, bring things home, because they act as models and stuff like that, You've got it right there on the table, and you can sketch at it, sketch at it, and sketch at it for as long as you want, rather than, like, in school, you got all the time on the classes and other people fucking annoying you, won't shut up. Anyway, yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to create something else. But anyway, okay, so we got that done. All right. Hope you enjoyed the shell content. Thanks for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, you can ask them, but I don't know that anybody ever would. See you later.